So there's a new defense minister in China.
Okay.
His name is Dong Jun. You guys probably remember that one of them was disappeared. The last guy was disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, he was formally removed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By Xi's cabinet.
Pretty sure you can't find him if you look for him now,
that's the thing.
though.
Is he was formally removed, but he hasn't been in the public eye whatsoever. What does this signify? I think in my mind, this is, again, another distillation of power.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing more and more people that were even close to the leadership in the beginning that maybe strayed a little bit more. I think, you know what a good analogy is censoring your own research board.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I'm going to give you $1 million to do this for me. You do exactly what they say, and they're like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah.
It's getting to that point now where the purges have gotten so out of control. And some other channels have covered this in depth. But the purges have gotten so out of control now that there's not a whole lot of people left, and people that were really close to the leadership, that were super close, have been pushed aside because they're not in line with the new paranoia.
Exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's awful. It's just because they say something you didn't want to hear one morning. You know, that's what it is.
It could be that.
It's literally that. It's like, oh, I don't quite like this tea or something. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah,
you know?
So that's General Li Shangfu. The new guy, Dong Jun, he's actually the former commander of the PLA Navy, the Plan. So the People's Liberation Army Navy, he was the former commander. So he's a high-level dude that just took this defense minister job. Yeah. We'll see what he does. I mean, this is all... what people say is, oh, they're trying to get rid of corruption within the PLA and kind of like bring the leadership back to the CCP and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Never know.
We'll see.
Never know.
What's going on with this dude?
This is actually really interesting. Retired U.S. Navy Admiral James Stavridis.
Yes, what it is.
Yeah.
Sounds like a disease or something you get. Like, literally, doesn't it sound like if you go scratch yourself on a piece of metal?
That's not a very nice thing to say.
I'm sorry, but that's
you want NATO's former Supreme Allied Commander after you?
No, I'm just saying.
Look at this guy's decorated to hell.
I know, but you scrape yourself on a rusty fence. Says, oh shit, you better watch out. You might get Stavridis.
That's tetanus.
But it sounds like one of those things. You know what I'm saying?
Let me say it again. Yeah. Former Supreme Allied Commander.
It's a supremely bad condition.
Thankfully, he's on our side, I think. He's in the part of NATO, right?
Yeah,
part of the Western allies. Has said that China will not be ready for a potential war with the U.S. for about 10 years. Now, this is interesting details. Stavridis... Stop.
Yes, I am.
Made the remarks.
Oh, shit. I got Stavridis.
Good luck. We're never getting an interview with him,
get a
I guess.
Stavridis shot, you know?
Way to, shoot down any potential person we could actually interview. He would have been fascinating to talk to.
I think we could discuss the origins of his surname.
I think we could do that in private. You can do that.
Yeah,
I'll interview him privately,
Okay.
and this will be the C-Milk show.
There we go.
And the divorce will happen.
Yeah, for that one time.
Stavridis made the remarks during an interview aired this week on the Michael Medved show. After being asked whether tensions centered on the South China Sea territorial disputes could spill over into a new world war, and that's something people have been asking nonstop, right?
Yeah.
He said that the U.S. and its regional allies have a 10-year grace period to prepare for the possibility of war with China. U.S.-China's relations have been on a knife edge due to military activity in the sensitive waters of the Taiwan Strait by American and regional allies, and China claims sovereignty over the strait and most of the rest of the South China Sea, in opposition to international maritime laws and the views of nearly every other country in the entire world.
Yeah.
And this is the quote. Even though China is building a massive fleet, even though they're acting aggressively, they are not ready yet, he said. If we ended up in a war with China, it wouldn't just be the U.S. and China, and I think that's where a lot of people get caught up on.
Sure.
Right? We have treaty allies who are sworn to come and be part of the military campaign, like Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand. It's a lot of allies in the region.
That's correct, yeah.
That's a lot of firepower, he continued. China, in my estimation, will not be ready to take on the U.S. in a very mature way for about 10 years. So I think we have a bit of a grace period here, where we can strengthen our military to preserve deterrence and also try to use diplomacy and all other means we have to take the tension out of the relationship. And it's nice to know that there's 10 years potentially on the board here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people like to think this is happening tomorrow.
Of course.
You know what I mean? I think that's not a good way to live. But to be ready is a different story, right?
Look, I mean, I hate this whole situation because lots of people that I know would ask about, like, oh, is it safe to go to Taiwan? You know, with all the tensions between China and Taiwan. And, you know, the thing is, I had people asking me that, like, close on 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Imagine you could have been in Taiwan, you could have raised a family, you could have bought a house, you could have, who knows, you know, 20 years is a long time.
Yeah.
But if you were worried to do something because of these so-called tensions, you would have missed out on that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's also really. I hate these like prediction questions. I don't hate you guys for asking them, but it's one of those things that like
you can't know.
You can't know, but this guy has high military background. These estimations are going to be more accurate, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's more realistic to say we're not going to war with China tomorrow. Sure. And it's not just going to be the U.S. versus China. And if anything does happen, there is a lot of people that are on the U.S.'s side, and that's ever changing in the U.S.'s favor.
Yeah,
especially recently.
Yeah.
China isn't winning no friends in the region.
Right, yeah.
I don't think anyone really. Don't.
No, I'm not going to say
supreme.
Anything. I know.
All right.
Know.
Supreme commander.
I know.
It's like when you get the fries, Coke, and the extra patty, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't the basic dollar menu.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. Is that it for Worldview, or did you have something else?
No, there's one more.
Oh, there's one more thing? Okay.
I wanted to, it was because it's in line. I always like to give everyone an update on the Taiwan thing. And some people I see are talking about Taiwan, and I see this on a certain political side, is that they like to talk about Taiwan like it's no one's problem and it's just like a regional thing over there. But it is, because if you think about this, going back to that thing, yeah, maybe it doesn't happen in the next 5-10 years or whatever.
Sure.
But the thing that's going to make a potential world war, and the thing that's going to make a U.S.-China conflict happen, is Taiwan. That is what it is. That's the thing on the board here.
Correct.
So we have to pay attention to what happens there politically as well. And something that really blew up in China's face, in probably the worst possible way, is that they have been trying to meddle with Taiwan's presidential election.
Yeah.
Like, to the tune of millions and millions and millions of dollars of trying to influence campaigns.
Yeah, and sending spies in there to go and meddle and do things.
It's been outlandish, right? It's been out of control. And the reason is that they say, hey, if let's just say people don't want to vote for the pro-independence party anymore. Remember Tsai Ing-wen, the former president. Maybe people get tired of that and they want some more economic growth, even though Taiwan's economy is doing super well.
Very
the stock markets are up.
Yep.
But let's just say people want more growth and they want less of this political tension with China. We can maybe potentially influence an electoral campaign. Sure. We can influence at least maybe even the next. We can plant the seeds for the next few elections, right? So where people are going to elect someone that's more sympathetic to China. Maybe we can get reunification, or I should just say unification. It's never been part of China.
It's never been part of China.
Maybe we can get unification through peaceful means by just throwing elections there, right? The problem is, because of all of the press and because of the sheer amount of meddling, and the fact that Taiwan's like a 94% on the Freedom House Index, they talk about problems, they talk about the meddling, the journalists can talk about this stuff. Yeah. They have YouTubers that can talk about this stuff, right? Yeah. People are aware of it. People are aware of the meddling. China doesn't understand that when they go and meddle in a place, if they meddle in a dictatorship, they can control the narrative there. Yeah. But if you meddle in a democracy, the people are going to talk about it.
Correct.
So what's happened is they've got no one on their side anymore. So the three potential candidates, right, for the DPP, you got Taiwan's People Party, and the KMT, the Kuomintang, who's traditionally been much more sympathetic to China, none of the candidates for these campaigns are pro-China anymore. Yeah. Because they know they'll lose all the votes.
Yeah, because of all the meddling.
Because of all the meddling. And because of all the meddling, it's changed the whole landscape of Taiwan even worse. Look at these three things. The proportion of people in Taiwan who identify primarily as Chinese has plummeted to below 3% now. Yeah. If you ask a Chinese person who has to follow state media in China, they would tell you that all Taiwanese people want to be part of China, and they all identify as Chinese, and it's just America's puppet state. But the people, they want to be part of China. Yeah. Because that's what they've been told.
Yeah, but it's not true.
Less than 3%, guys. We're at Taiwanese people that identify as Chinese is less than 3%. That is not a majority, my friends. Nope. It's prompting even the party that had the most ardently pursued, peaceful political union with Beijing to do everything to shed its pro-Beijing label. They've got no allies in the parties left. Yeah. It's done.
It's great.
Anyone who wins now, being close to Beijing is not on the table anymore. They've ruined it. Young people in Taiwan neither feel they are Chinese, nor do they have affection for anything Chinese. Quite the contrary. Deputy head of the KMT. So even the KMT.
Yeah, exactly. They're the bad guys.
It wasn't until the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza that people started paying attention. Taiwan needs to prepare quickly. So, I mean, we have people that were traditionally closer to China now that are just throwing that whole idea out the window.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that happen. Yeah. It's good when people can have open discourse about things, you know?
Yeah.
and not be told what they must think.
Yeah.
And that's why China does so well in Africa when you've got those corrupt dictatorships and so on, because they can just, bribe the heads of state there and bribe the government, and nobody has a say.
Yeah.
By the way, before he starts. 310.
You gotta add mud. You gotta add water.
What is this? This is like supposed to be a TED Talk, right?
Yeah.
Or do not trust.
I like how everyone's emotional.
You have to try or you die trying.
It's okay.
Wow.
When I close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs.